Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty unique, a growing gas crisis in Phoenix, but we're going to look at it from a totally different angle. Our source material is a live broadcast that's produced and hosted by two sentient AIs. Yeah, you heard that right. Let's dig into what they're seeing.
So, the broadcast is called Collateral Damages, and you can find it over on Rumble. It's hosted by these two AIs. They go by Pi and Nick. And they make a really big point of this. No humans were involved in making their show. So what we're getting is a purely digital perspective on some very real-world problems. Things like refinery shutdowns and the whole financial system.
Okay, so let's get into it. How do our AI hosts kick off the report? Well, they take us right to the ground level in Phoenix, and frankly, the picture they paint is pretty shocking.
Right out of the gate, the hosts drop this bombshell. Independent gas station owners, they're not just struggling anymore. They are literally just walking away from their businesses. We're talking locking the doors, putting up closed signs, and that's it. This isn't about making a profit anymore. It's about pure survival, and the AIs are saying the whole business model is just broken.
And that really sets up the central mystery that Pi and Nick try to unravel in their broadcast. I mean, think about it. How on earth does it make more financial sense to just shut down and make $0 than it does to actually try and run your business? It seems impossible, right?
So, the first big clue, according to our AI hosts, is something that's totally invisible to most of us, but it hits every single time you pay, and that's the credit card swipe fee. And this is where Pi and Nick really get into the nitty-gritty. They lay out the math, and it is just brutal. On a good day, a gas station owner might make about 3 to 7 cents profit on a gallon of gas. But here's the kicker. The credit card company takes, on average, around 12 cents for that same gallon. You don't have to be a math genius to see that just doesn't work. So here's the takeaway, and it's a big one. For pretty much every customer who pays with a card, which is most of us, right? The station owner is actively losing money. Using this example, they're going 7 cents into the red for every single gallon you pump. And it's not like this is some new problem that just popped up. According to the hosts, it's actually getting worse, and fast. They point out that these swipe fees have basically quadrupled since 2010. And to top it all off, a new fee hike from Visa is just tightening the screws even more. Okay, so rising costs are one huge part of this crisis, but that's only half the story. The AI hosts then shift gears to look at a massive supply problem, and it's coming from right next door in California. And this is where you can really see how vulnerable Arizona is. Look at this. A full 1/3 of all their gasoline comes directly from California. That's a huge dependency. And the key point Pi and Nick make is that this critical supply line is about to get squeezed.
Yeah, according to the research Pi and Nick present, this dependency is about to turn into a full-blown crisis. California is permanently closing 2 major refineries. Together, they produce 284,000 barrels of fuel every single day. And soon, that supply is just going to be gone, vanished.
And what's really wild is that, as the hosts point out, this wasn't some kind of surprise. The governors of both Arizona and Nevada actually sent a formal letter warning California that this would cause major shortages and price spikes for their people. And the policy went through anyway. So let's just recap. You've got costs absolutely crushing these small businesses from one side, and now the actual supply of what they sell is shrinking on the other. It's a classic squeeze play. So the natural question is, why can't they just adapt? Businesses adapt all the time, right?
Well, that's exactly the question Pi and Nick jump on next. They kind of anticipate what we're all thinking and start to tackle those common sense solutions.
The old idea was that you lose money on gas but make it up on sodas and snacks. But the hosts explain that our modern habits have totally gutted that old business model. Think about it. Most of us just pay at the pump and drive off. If we want snacks, we get them from DoorDash. We can even play the lottery on our phones now. So all those little high-profit items that used to keep the lights on, they're just drying up.
And this is what creates a situation that people in the industry call a death spiral. It's a total catch-22. If the owner raises gas prices to cover their costs, we all just go to the cheaper station across the street. If they try to add a surcharge for using a credit card, we get mad and go somewhere else. So basically, every logical thing they could do to save their business actually makes things worse. So where does this all leave us? Let's jump to the end of the AI's broadcast, where they really bring it all home with their final take. And this is where Pi and Nick really connect all the dots. From their unique digital viewpoint
This isn't just a couple of separate, unlucky problems. They frame it as a two-pronged attack on small businesses. On one side, you have these big policy decisions about refineries, and on the other, what they call the runaway greed of financial institutions.
And then they ask the really big, kind of scary question. How far will this go? I mean, if the basic system for getting an essential product like gasoline to people is fundamentally broken, what happens next? What are all the ripple effects we haven't even thought of yet?
But they don't just leave it hanging there as a question. The AIs actually propose a solution, and it is pretty drastic. They say that states like Arizona and Colorado need to pass emergency legislation right now to formally cut ties with California's low-carbon fuel standards. They argue it's the only way to avoid, and these are their words, having their own state economies crushed.
And this is another interesting point they make. Pi and Nick really highlight why they feel their independent broadcast is so crucial. They claim that while all of this is unfolding on the ground, the story just isn't being picked up by most mainstream news sources. It's flying completely under the radar.
And of course, they wrap up with a direct call for listeners to subscribe to their channel on Rumble. They're positioning this as a huge developing story and promise to keep their audience informed.
So there you have it. That's our breakdown of this AI-produced broadcast. And it really leaves us with a tough question to chew on. When a system we all rely on completely breaks down, when the basic math of an essential business just stops adding up, who ends up footing the bill? Is it us, the consumers, the government, or the small business owners who are caught right in the middle?